Hi, welcome back. And if it's your first time here, welcome here. Glad to have you. Today, I want to talk a little bit about capitalism. Um, Back in 2020, I separated from the military after over 9 years of service. And I went back to school right away for nursing degree. That was the year I started my nursing prerequisite. At the time, my stepdad was still alive. Um, and the reason why I'm bringing him up is because he played a big role on me regarding to capitalism. Um, at the time, he was still alive. He died not long after due to lung cancer because of Asian orange when he got it when he was serving the Vietnam War. The very first time we met, I was still at the end of high school. I remember contemplating to join the military at the time. While I was in for those 9 years, I didn't really go home that often, even though even though we had to leave like 30 days leave each month annually. Um, I didn't really go home that often for a lot of reasons. Um, so, but from all the conversations that we had, though, over the years, especially the time that we spent together after I separated from the military, we spent a lot of time together in the house. I learned that he always been deeply interested in stocks and believed in capitalism his entire life. And he thought that capitalism is just good. I have never heard him saying, there's a caveat, there's a catch, this and that. He just think it's good. Overall, I have always believed that he was a wise, very wise guy, and I still do till this day. Um, because of his cancer, he couldn't do much. So he just majority of the day he just sat on his lazy boy and watched the television all day every day. Um, he mainly followed the news and stocks, the stock market. Um, I remember I would stay up with him very late at night all the time, and we'll just talk about so much, about everything, and he would help me on my homeworks on the nursing prerequisites every now and then. Um, I remember I remember I had to do one homework. Um, I forgot which class it was for, but it was one of the well, kind of like a literature side of things. And I remember the topic that I had to discuss was about identities. So we got together and we dug up every possible identities that we could think of for me, from cultural related, age, gender, call signs, good and bad, things that I did, jobs and positions that I held, um, you name it. So we tried to come up with everything that we could think of. So one one of the identities that we came up that he identified me as was a capitalist. Yeah. At the moment, I froze and I just looked at him. I was like, Hmm? How? How? And I asked that because I thought that only the rich people, the people who are like the CEOs holding this and that companies can be called as capitalists. So, um, and then he just looked at me. He was like, "Well, you save and invest. You have stocks and bonds. That makes you a capitalist." And he said it with a big smile. I remember it till this day. A proud one too. Um, knowing that knowing that he influenced me to become one. Um, that was the first time. That was the first time the label capitalist, capitalism, all the whole thing together, has left a mark in my head. Um, and at the time, I have to admit it, I felt proud too, mainly because of him, but well, also just feel good that I managed my money well. I didn't blew my money on girls, cars, alcohol, bars, and all that stuff. No, that wasn't me. And I didn't live paycheck to paycheck, even though I was not making much at all. So that all those things makes me feel good about it, and that's why I feel proud of it. So now, fast forward 6 years later, the word capitalist, well, capitalism is a bigger idea, right? It just gives me a neutral feeling now. It no longer stirs a feeling within me the same way as it used to be. I mean, yeah, it still makes me feel good in a way. Like hey, I'm okay with my money. I'm not wasteful. I am grown. More like, describing a person with certain merits and the good characteristics, good traits, rather than just like all about money. I see I see different sides of it now, like the good side and the ugly side as well. So, well, I guess I guess that my morals and the ethics are just a little too strong to make me feel the same way as what he was, which was, like I said, just proud back then, blindly to be specific. So if I if I really have to put like a feeling upon it now that at this age, at this stage, um, I would have to say a little confused, a little confused. People say people say don't hate the players, hate the game. And there are people out there saying, the vice versa. Um, to me, it's not just about which side is right or wrong anymore. You know, it is like the big players, which are the capitalists, are causing problems that will make the situation like um, how we live the current situation worse each day. I'm sure you have heard of the Pareto rule, which is the 80/20% rule. It's like 80% of the people, you know, hold this, and 20% of the, 80% of the people holding 20% of whatever it is. and vice versa, 20% of the people holding 80% of whatever it is. Um, so the idea is, it's like 20% of people holding 80% of the wealth or something like that. But this concept came out back in the 1940s, which is like about, like about over 80 years now. Um, so let's just assume this rule still applies very well in a lot of things in today's world. But the one thing we have to ask is that does it actually apply to wealth distribution? I'm I'm not in a profession that associates with in the financial sectors in any shape or form or way. But it doesn't really take a genius to you know just think based on daily lives, how we go through daily. So I I don't even think. Well, I'm not gonna Google it. I'm not gonna search it or anything. But nor should I believe in those search engines when it comes to sensitive informations like wealth. Those information might be written on by the ultra rich anyways. So I'm gonna take just a wild guess at it, just based on thinking, what I see, here, and based on just normal living. I would say that probably top 1%. I would say top 1% owns probably at least half, or maybe even more, of the wealth. And then I don't know. I mean, maybe another 5 to 10% owns um, over 80% of the rest of the other half, and whatever is left is distributed down on unevenly to the public. And when I think about that, the disgusting part is that when you want more, the often things that you hear is that they would tell you, go to school, work harder, finding a new job, work longer hours, all those kind of solutions. But I mean, yeah, obviously, because there's no other. What are other ways left out there for the common people? That's all the common things that we can all think of, that we can all do for the commoners, is to fight the bottom, the very bottom leftovers. So, okay, before I continue, so for the patriots out there, before you get mad at me, at what I said, uh, you might think that I'm just here bashing out of the U.S. or something, but I'm not. I'm really not. Um, I'm a patriot too, and like I said, I served, and I would do it again and again and again if I could relive my life all over again. But I would rather see things, in a clear way, not so blind. I mean, I'm well aware that there are other regimes are just as bad. Actually, as a matter of fact, like communism, which is much worse than what we have, which is democracy combined with capitalism. Um, but I'm not comparing the two or with any other regimes out there. Just I'm just recognizing that capitalism might not be as good as I thought it to be in a whole picture in that sense. At least not in this era, if you understand what I meant. Um, so you see, I'm not mad or anything at at the rich, because they are rich. Them being selfish, it's actually totally understandable. It's normal. I mean, it's human nature after all. It's capitalism. The boss takes the responsibilities, or at least this is the way it's supposed to be. So they get the bigger portion of the cake. It is what it is. And if you were you or me, I would argue that we probably would have ended up done something similar, which is to take money from, make money from taking advantages of the public, of the common people, and even deceiving the public through whatever means to achieve whatever they're trying to achieve, which is money at the end of the day. Um, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I will do those kind of things. It is against my morals and ethics. But what I am saying is that I'm just describing the situation, the phenomenon, human nature, just human nature. And I know it's not fair, and I know it's not fair, and it is fine though. You know, nothing ever was fair and never will be. In fact, if someone, cries out for fairness and justice on, this and everything, I would just say the person is cute. Naive, but still cute. So I can understand it from human nature standpoint. However though, what frustrates me is that I don't understand why the rich have to be so greedy. Why they want quite literally everything. Everything. Why is it having enough for themselves to live freely for multiple generations? It's still not enough. Why do they have to be so greedy to that point? That is what I don't understand. I mean, yeah, like I said, it's human nature, but extreme. I I still have hope. I still have hope and believe that it's not the system itself. The systems are built and run by people. Systems don't destroy people. People do. On the surface level, it seems like the system has broken over time, because I mean obviously time has changed after all. Lots of work, jobs being replaced by machines. Now there's AI. Well, about AI, it's also a topic I want to talk about. But not your typical, what do you think it is? It's a different perspective. But anyways, people have changed too over time. America US used to be the dream country. It used to be called shining city on a hill. It still kind of is, actually. It still kind of is. It's just that I suppose the light on that hill in the city is not as bright as it used to be, like a better term, I suppose. Um, but on an average, back in the I didn't live through this era because I wasn't here, and even if I was, I would be a very like just a baby. But back in like 1970s, 80s, even a little bit earlier than that, um, on average, an American family would consist of like four people, a couple with two kids. The man would work and be able to support a family, which includes like a house, nothing crazy, but a house, one or maybe even two cars, and then put food and the basic needs on the table. Um, and the best part is that he didn't even have to be this this omnipotent man that everyone's looking for nowadays. He didn't have to be like some special, like a Superman or anything like that. So the idea is that that lifestyle was there. It was not made up. It was done. So would you say there were no rich and the poor people back then? I wouldn't. I'm sure they were as, there were there as in all eras, in all countries. Like I said, I didn't live through that era, but I highly doubt that the common citizens from back then um, struggled as much as what it is today. Financial is one, but there's so much more than that. So, truth is, capitalism was more than good for the public, for the citizens once upon a time. But it's not the same anymore. And the sad reality is that it's far from. Feels like it's a down slope. Just I wouldn't say going away. It's still very well here today, but just not as nearly as good as what it used to be. Last year, I was trying to work out by myself, without going to the gym. I was thinking of just doing push-ups and pull-ups. Well, push-ups are easy. You can just find the ground and then do them. You can do them anywhere. But pull-ups can be a little bit problematic. And then while I was trying to do them, I found out that it was a little bit more problematic than I thought it was, and it goes a deeper layer, which made me thought about capitalism as a whole. So what happened? Well, it was ironic as well. So what happened was that I thought to myself, all I need is a bar, and I'll just do I'll just go to the park, and then just do everything there, the pull-ups and the push-ups. So I drove around the city. I went out, drove around the city. This was back in California. It's just a regular city. And I drove all the parks. And none of the parks had pull-up bars. There were parks everywhere around the community, and they're all the same. The area, the grass area, um, stone seats, bathroom, obviously, drinking fountain. Actually, now I think about it, that's pretty much all there is. Pretty sad, actually. There's not a pull-up bar. There's not any sort of equipment for adults. Nothing. At first, I couldn't understand it because um, when I go travel to other places, especially other countries, and I saw um, exercise equipments all the time, just in the public for people to use anytime they want to. But it's not here. And then later on, I realized that this is just probably just America's specialty. The developers, um, the house developers, whatever they are, um, they just don't want to build those things because nobody would spend the money to go to the gyms anymore. It would hurt the businesses. It would be a competition, actually. So in a way, people are forced to pay a monthly fee to go to the gym just to use a couple equipment to do a couple exercises. That could be done freely, totally free. Paying the fees, the monthly fees, the annual fees, and the cancellation fees, all kinds of fees. And when I thought about all that, I was, truly disgusted by it. Truly disgusted. And remember, I said it was ironic as well. And this is why. After I found that out, I was still looking for a pull-up bar somewhere. Funny enough, I was targeted by advertisements to buy pull-up bars to install at home. I was just so speechless when I saw all that. But yeah, this is just an example. If you observe your life carefully, a little bit thoroughly, your surroundings, everything that we do daily here, you will find that today's capitalism is always finding the nastiest ways, and most of them through deceiving, like I said, to seep through our wallets, our wealth, and at a great price, very costly. So it made me wonder, how did America, from that golden age when the man of a family alone could feed the entire family's need, becoming whatever this is today. And the only thing I could think of is it has to be greed, and greed on both sides. I would say much more from the capitalist side. Well, capitalism, the idea of capitalism and the merchants and all that. I would say more on their side, but it's on the consumers as well. You can't really make a clap with one hand. It's a partnership type of deal, I suppose. So as a commoner, we can't really do much about the ultra rich. Um, Justice is, just a word that is created by the people who have the power, higher authorities, and lots of money. So just throw that idea out of your mind. Justice was never created for the common people. So yeah, I mean, you can cause them harm in like illegal ways. And I would say that they do afraid of that, which is the reason why you see a lot of them walking around hiring bodyguards. Um, and you can, yeah, I know, I mean, you can loot them, rob them, whatever it is. But but that is, that is just not the right thing to do. So that's not the right way to go about it. We just have to do what we can do. And I deeply believe that will be not feeding them. And when I say not feeding them, I mean like, like performers become rich because the people are willing to spend like for Christ's sake, like literally a whole month worth of a paycheck just to buy a ticket and make themselves feel like they are part of something. I mean, this could be like, a concert ticket, a sport ticket. Um, the merchants get rich because, you are willing to buy whatever shiny, worthless, crazy, overpriced bullshit that they throw at you, or us in this case, in this sense. Actually, about that, I also think that the merchants, they should be the one who pay the sales tax, not the common people. Well, that's another topic I want to talk about in another video. But anyways, so for the people who are pro-capitalism, I understand that capitalism is extremely important for a country to have, to thrive and everything. I'm well aware that capitalism creates jobs for people. They make the economy run and all that. But have you ever thought about that? It can also create poverty because of, like I said, greed and the competitions and all that. Well, maybe poverty is a little too strong in this sense, but it certainly creates wealth inequalities in a big way. I'm not okay. I'm not saying I want to see like absolute equality in wealth distribution or anything like that. That's not possible. And as a matter of fact, that's probably a horrible thing anyways. But the gap that we have though, the gap that we have in this age is just too big. It's just too big at this point. And I'm not saying between the rich and the poor. I'm talking about it the between the rich and just normal people. It's too big. So it makes me question. Is it a good or bad? I don't know. Which is the reason why I was saying earlier I'm a little confused. I mean, at this very point, I'm still leaning towards capitalism. I still support it and everything. But it certainly has gone too far for the filthy rich ones. And that need to be adjusted, like by law. I don't know how, but well, there's always more than one way to fix a problem. And it should be adjusted legally, by law, by the government, whatever it is. However, how it's gonna go. There's a Chinese term. It's said 物极必反, 4 letters. So basically saying that things extreme must oppose. What it's saying is that when something is at its extreme, it shall backfire inevitably. And I truly believe it. And I believe it applies to everything in life, everything. So their greed, the ultra filthy people, rich people's greed, I feel that it will eventually backfire and set the world in turmoil if it already hasn't started yet, which I feel it already has, but it seems like this is just a beginning of that. Anyways, lastly, this might be biased based on my personal observation and experiences, but I just want to say that I have noticed that extreme capitalism, extreme capitalism has the tendency to destroy the warmth and the bustle of everyday simple joyous life. Um, so yeah, that's all I have for today. Please comment down below. Tell me what do you think about everything I said, and also just about the capitalism as a whole. Like I said, I still think it's positive towards the positive side of things as of now. But I can definitely see things has been turned to the bad side. So please let me know, comment down below, what do you think about capitalism, and where you think the capitalism is going to go in the future, which greatly affect each one of us in a big way. But yeah, thank you for watching, listening, and reflecting with me. I will see you in the next video. Bye for now. Thank you.